Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Coffee Talk. Lovely to have you here. My name is Elyse. I'm joined with the lovely Lisa and Ginette, some of the mediums and channelers of Avalon Spirit, and we gather every week to chat all the spirity things with our coffees, of course. So this week we were thinking about, we all were kind of feeling like, ooh, let's bring our cards. So sometimes we'll just kind of show up and be like, what are we talking about today? And we all were like, let's bring the cards out. And so with that, we started talking about learning how to read cards. Like, there's so many different ways to do it. And I know for me, like with tarot specifically, I always felt a little like, ooh, intimidated and like I didn't know how to work with them. And so we got into a discussion of why don't we talk about how to read tarot cards, how to read oracle cards too, because that can also be up for some interpretation. So that is kind of our topic for the week.
Okay. So before we completely dive in, I also want to say for people that are like, how do cards work? Like, why cards? Like, are the cards themselves magic? I mean, I think sometimes they are, but generally cards, whether you use cards or runes or a pendulum, or I've seen people use a box of charms, like whatever you use, you're giving spirit the material object as a divination tool, a tool to communicate, a bridge point between what spirit is wanting to share with you and what you can tangibly understand by seeing and looking at the card. So it's more about like you can use a deck of playing cards even as tarot cards. Like you can use anything, but tarot and oracle have been created in such a beautiful way to be that bridge piece. So I just want to say that, which is, and the reason I say that, just to finish off, is that anybody can use tarot or oracle. You don't have to be a medium. You don't have to know how to do it yet. You learn by doing. So I think we really want to invite everybody in to open up to the idea of having a deck and playing with it. No matter your experience, you can too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why today we wanted to kind of do like the brief overview of like the tarot deck and like what it is. And then essentially how to read it. Like we can give you the beginner tools, but it's so individual on how you read your cards. Right?
Yes.
Like, and I'll afterwards I'll explain like a little exercise that you can go through with your cards so that you can like claim them as yours and your energy, and then you read them because they're yours.
And on that
how to
note
do
too,
that.
every deck has a different energy, right? Like even though it's just a, piece of plasticky paper, whatever, the designs, the energy of the deck, the write-ups, the artwork, the like themes
Definitely.
within it, like all of those have different vibes. So you can be drawn, like a lot of people say like tarot is tarot is tarot, but for me, like there's certain tarot decks where I'm like, ugh,
Yeah,
not for
definitely.
me. And then there's others that I'm like, okay, yes, I'm more interested.
Yeah.
And same with Oracle.
Yeah.
And that's why we all have like 50 decks.
Yeah.
So many different decks because like you said, you're drawn to the energy of it and maybe specifically what the wording will be in that deck at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes as you get used to different decks and you've claimed them to your own, when you're sitting down in meditation, you want to have a little communication with spirit. You can even ask which deck to use in order to connect with the messaging, and then you'll kind of see the vision of a deck.
Yeah.
Or even one card, and you'll be like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
So
that card.
starting with that idea. So if you go to a store, or even you can even do this online, and you're like, okay, I want to try Oracle or Tarot, and you're staring in front of that big shelf of all these different options, you don't know what to do. I would say, I don't know your process, but what I do is I look at which one am I drawn to, and it might be a color, it might be a word, and I might find a couple. And then what I do is I take them out, I put them on the floor, I close my eyes and I mix them around, and then I see which one my hand is drawn to most energetically. And then I go with that deck. And usually, well, every time I've done that, it has been specific in the messaging in the deck for me at that time.
Yeah.
So you could buy a deck by a recommendation from somebody. I know we all absolutely love this Light Seers Tarot deck. We all have it. I have it in 2 sizes.
Yeah, it might be one of the easiest cards to read.
Yeah.
Because the pictures tell such a story.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
And that's another like key thing about reading cards is when you can look at the visual representation on the card and connect to the visual representation,
Yeah.
it will tell a story, right?
Unlike some other decks, Elyse, do you remember that deck I got you? It was this Egyptian deck, ancient Egyptian deck, written in French, but in Old French. So like I speak French and I couldn't even understand some of the words used on an Egyptian deck written in French that I got Elyse, who doesn't speak French, but I didn't realize it at the time. It was pretty much the worst gift ever, which she then regifted back to me years later.
I did.
That is so funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
anyways.
Or
Okay.
on that note too, there, one of my first tarot decks was actually really turned me away from tarot cards because I was
That
like,
was another
"Ugh."
one I got you.
Yes, yes. And we nicknamed it Scary Terry because it was
It was so dark.
intense. It was dark. It had like an intense energy to it, and it felt like it always yelled at you, but also, which like is fine sometimes. Sometimes you maybe need like setting straight, but when you're learning it, the write up was like a friggin' riddle. Like I'm like, I don't even if I knew what this card meant, and at the time I really didn't have any context of what the cards meant, I would go to the book to read the write up, and it was like this like 3-page like limerick,
Essay.
and I'm like, I don't, I don't get it
Still
like
don't get
at
it.
all, and so I just stopped using them because I'm like, oh, all tarot cards are like this, but that's just not, I would do the googling and stuff to try and decipher, but then even still, the energy of the deck eventually, I was like, not for me anymore.
Mhm.
I think I still have it. Maybe you'll get that as a gift too.
I do. No, I still have mine. Mine's like in a drawer somewhere because it's scary. But it was a deck that Spirited showed me at a time where it was like really dark in my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to buy the deck because I'm like, I don't like it. It doesn't look nice. But they're like, you need the deck. And when I bought it, I brought it home and out jumped 7 cards in the exact order that I needed
Mhm.
for that time. Right. So it's funny how it works. But anyways, so what are some of the key pieces of a tarot deck? What was
Okay,
one of
well,
the
let's
first
break down the tarot. So the tarot comes in a 78, right? 70 card
Yeah.
pack, essentially. And it's made up of like 5 different groups. And so there's major arcana and minor arcana, okay? So the 5 different groups is the major arcana is numbered 0 all the way through 21.
Yeah.
Okay. And so those have the specific number on it. For instance, this is number 19. This is the sun card. Okay. So that's just the sun. So 0 to 21 in major have a 1 word, like 1 card theme. Okay. So that's the sun. That's 19. And then let me find another one. Number 6. This is the lovers card. Okay. Number 6. So again, it's numbered 0 to 21, and each one in the major holds a major theme. That's why it's called the major. And those ones, when they come out, they are to signify that this is a major theme in whatever you're reading and whatever the question is. Has the kind of big momentum energy in it. Okay. So that's 0 to 21. That's one whole part. And then the other part is the minor, and that comes in 4 groups, just like playing cards. Okay. So the 4 groups is that you have wands, you have swords, you have cups, and you have pentacles. Okay. So pentacles, cups, wands, and swords. So you have all 4 of those suits in the minor, and those you start at ace, which is 1, all just like playing cards, all the way up to 10. And then you don't have jack, queen, king so much. You kind of do, but you have the page, which is in all 4. Page kind of signifies, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of like the interest in starting something new, right?
Yeah.
It's the inquiry of something new. Then you have the knight, which I kind of look at as like the jack, right? The knight. And the knight is after the page. So it's more like now velocity to move forward. It's kind of like momentum or movement. Okay. Queen is more of the feminine energy of it in its like, I don't know, like the feminine quality of it, right? So like a major, it's as you go up ace is like the beginning, the thought, that the spark of something new moving all the way up. And then you have the queen, which is the kind of queendom energy, that kind of feminine leadership. And then you have the king, which is kind of the doer, is that masculine interpretation of it in all four suits. Okay, now Ginette or Elyse, either one of you, because I've been talking so much, do you want to talk about the themes of all four suits? Because they have like, and this is just tarot for starters, right? Like you can really get into it, but just for starters, each four suit has a theme to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, so Pentacles. Pentacles represent like your material world, your physical world. So that can be material things, money, where you live, how you are in your material world. Are you abundant? Are you lacking? Like in a very, very tangible 3D way. Swords represent kind of your mental sphere, what your thoughts are. Are your thoughts transitioning? Are your thoughts fighting, warring themselves? Are you reaching a point of freedom? Different numbers will give you different aspects of the world of your thoughts. Cups are all about your emotions, your heart space, how your heart is feeling. They often represent love, something coming in from the past in your heart space. And then wands are all about like your passion and purpose, your action, like they're usually action potentials based on passion purpose, like a doing. Doing. Yeah. So that's kind of how those are broken down. So then there's all the interpretations on top of that. And then you can add in the numerology of it. And that's the thing with tarot is I find it can get very overwhelming when you, like, if you were to sit down, and I've done this, and I think we've all done this, everybody I know that has gotten into tarot sits down with a book and is like, I'm going to learn tarot. And it's not something you learn in a day. It's a process of like learning a language, and you layer it and you layer it and you layer it, and you learn to look into the numerology, into the imagery, into the major, minor arcana, into the suit that it is, all of that. So it's a process, but these are just ways that you can begin to break it down. And I think we also forgot too, Lisa, and I forgot too, that the major arcanas actually start with a 0.
Yeah.
The Fool is, oh, did you? Okay, I wasn't sure if you said it. Yeah. So
I said 0 to 21, and then each suit starts with the ace.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So, what do you find the most confusing part of tarot, Elyse? What would you say? Like, what is?
Just single me out. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
because I'm very much like, I'm still learning and working with tarot. Like, and it's interesting. Sometimes
I think everybody continues to learn it, right? Like it's not something
yeah, no, fair enough. I would say I'm still like I don't default to it necessarily in readings because I don't feel confident enough in it. And it's one of those things that I almost think of it like astrology, where there's so many layers to it. It's so complex, and it's like an art form that you can just learn and get better at and get better at and get better at. And there's so many ways to interpret. And so like you can have one person in astrology talk about a transit, and then another person in talk about the same transit, but with a very different lens. So that's often how I see tarot too, which my brain, and as I, have worked through my own tools with spirituality and things, I've really had to learn to tell my brain that it's not always like a clear cut this and then this and then this. It's not always a linear experience. And so for me, I think one of the trickiest things that I struggled with, and Ginette, I have you to thank for this, to say like, give yourself permission to not do it if you don't want, was the reverse. Because some cards, so like if you take a, positive card, like, the 2 of Cups usually is like love and union and partnership and la la la. And then you flip it, sometimes it's the opposite meaning.
Yeah.
But some write-ups aren't exactly that. And so what I would find I would get hung up on is like, do I just like completely opposite it? Or is it something else completely? And it really confused me for a long time. But I also felt like there was something to it where like the reversed cards were also saying something, but I couldn't necessarily decipher. And so I remember at one point, Jeanette, you were like, you don't have to read them reversed if you don't want to. Like, because there are cards that if it's like, the Two of Cups being, union and love and partnership, there are cards that are kind of opposite of that when they are not reversed, right? Separation, breakup, sadness, grief, that sort of thing. So there already are opposites or contradictions within the deck itself when you read it completely upright. So for me, trying to reverse things was really hard for my brain to be like, what is it saying?
Yeah.
Eventually, because I couldn't shake the feeling that the reversed cards were saying something for me, I remember I was reading this website. I think it was Biddy Tarot, which is one that I go to a lot because it really like baselines it for you. And it said one way to read reverse cards is like upright is just kind of the face value. Reversed is more of an internal experience, outside versus inside. So for me, I kind of tend to default to when I'm reading my own tarot, like the reversed is my internal experience of it versus like how it's playing out in my life. But that's completely up to interpretation too, right? It's not a right or wrong.
Yeah, I never read reverse.
So yeah, reversed was a big one for me that I was like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
I always found the page was always really confusing for me because I couldn't decipher the difference between the pages.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. But then when I kind of lean into the differences in the suit. So if I keep getting pages, it's like, okay, we're starting something new. We are like, come up with the idea, but it's past the Fool card, which is the very first one, and that's 0, right? That's the Fool card. And that's such a beautiful card. This is the minor arcana again with the 0. It's called the Fool card. And you think fool, like, oh, you're a fool. But it's not fool. It means like absolutely start. If you look in, it's like starting fresh. It's like opening your brand new book. Like you are about to take the step, walk into the abyss. Like she's right on the edge here.
Yeah.
And this is a sacred geometrical shape. And it's like her connecting with this divine, knowing that it's time to take the step into this like ultimately divine movement forward. So the Fool card, getting it, I always see it, it's such a beautiful thing because it's like, oh, there you go. But sometimes you see how she's not looking, her eyes are closed sometimes, and she's like trust falling, right? So it's like trust that you can go forward. You're going to be ultimately supported by the divine. This is a divine push, right? You're supported, but you're to start now, right? That's how I always get the Fool card. Whereas the page, it'd be like, okay, it's like starting to do something, and let's say you're doing okay, cups, because that's an emotional thing, right? So start something that is new, starting a journey to something that's really connected to your heart. Be like, okay, I've been playing bowls, sound bowls, and I'm going to like, okay, I'm starting on a new journey with my sound healing because that's so close to my heart. That's a cups thing for me. You know what I mean? Or if it's like swords, it's like, okay, maybe start thinking or learning something new, like read a new book, maybe take a new class, start something new that's going to change your thought pattern, or you're going to learn something, actually like read something and have knowledge of something new, right? So if you lean into really what the meaning of each suit is, it can help you to interpret it. But again, like when you get really well illustrated cards, it's easy to kind of go into it. So like I love looking at the imagery. I kind of like went into all the major, like this is the Magician, that's one. And I love the Magician card because the original Magician, she had all the Magician has all the tools in front of them. So a wand, a sword, a cup, and a pentacle, meaning you have all the tools for all the things. You've got all the stuff in front of you. now it's time to like, how can you integrate it and start making your magic, right? So it's like this one doesn't, does she yeah, they're just little. It's the little pieces. But like look at how the magician's using her energy and like working with the universal energy to make it work. It's like, okay, it's time. So whenever, and that's is how I have put so when I'm reading it, I connect to the magician with, you got all the tools. Like you've been collecting the tools along the way. Now it's starting time. You like co-create with the universe and start making some magic, right? By using all your tools along the way, right? And that's me using the card, but also my personal connection to the card and the imagery to do the reading. And because I've done that, I know that spirit works with me in the way that I read them to portray the message. And that's why, like you said, Elyse, I don't read it reverse, because I know if I'm to read, you need to learn about something first. It's not going to be like full send in reverse. It's going to be, the Page of Swords.
Yeah. So I want to bring up 3 of the most daunting cards in tarot, because a lot of people that don't know about tarot, they just hear about Death card, Tower. Yeah, Death, Devil, and Tower. And the reason why I want to talk about these is because, first of all, most of the time, if we start with Death card, probably the scariest one for most people,
such a great card.
The amount of times that it doesn't mean physical death is significant. This means death and rebirth, a change point. And I love that if you look closely into it, you can see you have kind of this death here and the scythe a little bit, but you have this whole new reality coming to light on the inside. And it really talks about the ending of something and the beginning of something new. So when you're at a real big change point in your life and you pull the death card, it doesn't mean you're dying. It means you are stepping into something brand new.
Brand new.
And so it's like, like it's a closing of a chapter and a beginning of another chapter.
Yes.
So something to consider with Death card. Next one, Tower. So Tower card, a lot of people stress about this card because in traditional decks, it shows this big kind of tower turret thing. People are falling out of it. It's on fire and it's crumbling, right? The Tower card represents a shakeup of some sorts, a crumbling of something to allow for a new beginning and a rebirth. Now, sometimes the crumbling can be really life-altering.
Chaotic.
And chaotic, but it's always with purpose to help set you on your path. Yeah. And so when you pull a Tower card in your reading, you can also really merge with that energy and kind of like surrender into allowing a process to unfold instead of fearing it. Because I know I used to fear the Tower. And then when I started to get the Tower and work with it, I started to let the things that wanted to fall away or crumble.
Definitely. Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Tower has been coming up so much in the last couple of years. And think about all the things that we've had. An example is that there has been, the last 4 years have been a Tower card, essentially. Because yes, it's been chaotic. People haven't known all this stuff, right? Nobody knows what the heck is going on. But what is it doing ultimately? It is removing the old paradigm that was built on an unsturdy foundation, and we are rebuilding a new strong foundation. We are recreating a foundation that is in alignment with a greater good, with a higher power, with a higher frequency. And so we need Tower moments. We need Tower cards to take down the old way things were built, the old foundation that is no longer sturdy. So yeah, it can feel chaotic, but knowing that it's because there is the new foundation, then if you lean into that trust, you can know, okay, how do I want my foundation to be built? Right?
Yeah, 100%. Last card that I want to talk about is the Devil card. Now, I really like the drawing on this one because this can represent a couple different things. So if we stick with the drawing first, you can see how this person's got their head down and there's kind of like puppet strings here.
Yeah.
This can really represent you being stuck in old identities, old ways of thinking, old narratives that are kind of puppeteering your life. It can also represent somebody that is maybe not a beneficial person in your life. But it can also represent things that you're too hyper focused on or kind of obsessed about. It doesn't always just mean this dark, ominous demon surrounding you. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean
no.
everything is in trouble. It's saying, hey, notice what you notice around you. What's getting kind of sticky, or what are you not liking the feeling of? It's asking you to pay attention to that and then
Mhm.
choose what you want to do to change it.
Totally. Like what has control of your strings? Everybody's got it,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody has stuff. And so sometimes when it'll come up in a reading too, it'll be like, okay, you've got momentum forward, there's change happening, you're going forward. And then the devil card and be like, ooh, be like, no, but like what's going to propel you forward is being conscious along the way of
Mhm.
anything that still kind of has your strings, anything that's still kind of an Achilles heel that is attached to maybe old thinking, old belief systems, maybe like a little bit of a vice or an addiction that you know you're ready to move out of, right? Like
Mhm.
being consciously aware of that. Right.
Yeah.
And it brings it up for you. And spirit wouldn't give you the devil card if there wasn't something that's saying, you are going forward, you have this momentum, or you're moving in your alignment of your life, but there's still something that has an attachment to you in this way for you to take a look at, right?
Mhm. Yeah, totally.
And I
So that's
think
good.
that like in all of the different cards that we've talked about, we've given different ways in which you can interpret the card. I think this is where it comes into what is your question that you're asking when you pull the cards, because that will influence how you might perceive it, right? So if or interpret it. So if you're asking about like a relationship, is this, this relationship that I'm in, it's really challenging, like should I stay or should I go, right? There might be, you pull the devil card. It can speak to maybe the toxicity of the relationship, but it could also speak to how are you creating that within the relationship. And then that's where you want to also look to the other cards that you pull, because they will also inform each other. So it's like a story. It's not just you pull the death card, okay, death, rebirth, whatever, move on, right? You can just pull one card for sure. But when you're pulling others, you want to try and read them in story with each other, because they do amplify or shift your interpretation based on the question and what else is pulled.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's a great point. There was another point I was going to say too. What was it? Oh yeah, is when you're reading tarot too, or any cards for that matter, like sometimes you'll pull cards and there is absolutely zero relevance in the card pull. You're like, none of that is relative either to what I want to hear or what I don't want to hear. It just doesn't even make sense. Then in that case, I would put them back in, reshuffle, reset your energy, and ask again. Because there are sometimes if either we didn't quite settle in our energy enough, the right cards won't come out. Or if we're getting too attached to tarot and oracle cards and we're like, tell me the answers, tell me the answers, tell me the answers, it's like spirit will just shut it off and be like, sorry, no. And you'll just pull all these kind of random cards. So also feel for the resonance in what you pull, because it'll help give you insights. Although tarot is never there to tell you what to do, but
No, or to
rather
create
suggest,
fear
yeah,
or
like,
anything. There's never any like, especially if your intention is for the greatest good. Like again, putting your intention into the cards and connecting with the energy of it.
yeah,
But it's never put there as like, well, you can't make choice without the tarot. The tarot knows, like
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's like a tool, like anything else.
yeah. It's just giving you things like suggestions to consider that might bring you more clarity. So,
Do you guys pull cards every day?
yeah,
No.
So do I. You don't, Elyse, hey? No,
Mhm.
I do, because it's just a part of like my connection to spirit. So I meditate. I also pull cards. I also light
Mhm.
incense. I also play bowls. Like I have like certain connections with myself to spirit.
yeah,
I never use tarot or oracle when I'm doing my intuitive readings for people, though.
yeah, no,
I only have straight direct channel and messages from spirit. But sometimes before a reading or something, I'll go into like my Wisdom of Avalon Oracle deck and I'll be like, is there any themes or anything that with this person beforehand, just to connect with their energy? And if they don't want me to do that, they give me the mystery card. Uh, but it's kind of nice in the morning where I'll be like, okay, like I'll have cleared my energy and I'll be like, any themes for today or anything that I need to know, anything for like today or movement of the energy today. And then I'll pull on that.
Mhm.
And I've made a deal that if my energy isn't to be read with cards, they'll just give me the very first card is 10 of Swords.
Mm.
That's my grim. Like, just give me the 10 of Swords if my energy is not in alignment to receive the messages from tarot or the cards today. And then the reading will always start with the 10 of Swords. So if I pull 10 of Swords first, I'm like, okay. And then I put them away and then I come back to them. Because if the 10 of Swords is supposed to come to me, I ask for it to come through the reading, not at the beginning. Because if it's at the beginning, I put the cards away. That's my agreement. So like, that's why, like,
Yeah.
if we have little agreements like that, then we can always know that, like, when to trust ourselves and when the energy is right, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And each card has that significance, right?
Yeah.
One thing that comes up is like when we talk about kind of ominous kind of stuff is the fives too, right? Because the fives in tarot generally aren't the most positive cards in like good or bad, but they, like in numerology, fives signify change. So just because you pull a five doesn't necessarily mean that it means yes, you're going to endure chaos. It can be like there is a change now in the family. And Five of Wands is kind of like family bickering, right? Family like fighting. And if it's paired with something that is a momentum forward card, like a Wheel of Fortune. Okay. So if I were to pull out the Wheel of Fortune mixed with the Five of Wands, I would interpret it. Which number is the Wheel of Fortune now?
Mm.
I thought it was a higher one.
Yeah, I thought so too.
That's the World.
Yeah, the world is 21. Wheel of Fortune is like in the teens, I think.
Have them all in order.
Do you? That's
Yeah.
impressive.
10.
10. Okay.
10. Okay. So if I'm going to read the Wheel of Fortune, that's kind of like where karmic cycles, and it's kind of like the wheel, the change, right? So you're either moving out of a karmic cycle or into a new cycle or the ending of something, kind of thing is how I read this. So if I were to pull this along with the Five of Wands, which is like kind of like bickering and fighting, conflict with like friend group or family, siblings, that kind of stuff, it'd be like, okay, we're wrapping up the disagreements, it's time to change the cycle of the bickering. It's like move out of that energy, move out of that like hamster wheel, and now it's time for change and resolve or moving away, or like, you know what I mean? It's like that is resolving and done, full circle now, and we're moving into something different.
Yeah.
So it's really depends on too what it's paired with, and it is helpful to kind of look into the numerology of numbers too, where 5 indicates change, right? It's a change card.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful layers to tarot. So like we said, the journey will always deepen and deepen and deepen and deepen. And then what it means for you and how it relates to you at different times as you go through journeys, it's a really neat tool to have.
And I gotta share, because this is our card, the Three of Cups. That's the three of us. And we pulled this a ton when we went to Maui, and then we all just got together. We had a girls' weekend in Edmonton. We drove out to see Elyse, and this card came up a ton. And it's like the Three of Cups is like coming together, and it's like the three of us gazing up at the Big Dipper. And I mean, like, we literally do that.
Totally. Drinking a lot of coffee.
A lot of coffee and decaf coffee, and
yes,
I love that.
I know, so fun.
So curious, maybe as a wrap up, if each of us, because there was a difference in when we use cards between the three of us. So when do you pull for your cards?
Hey, can we first decipher the difference between tarot and oracle?
Sure.
Yeah. So tarot, like we've talked about, is very structured in the majors, the minors, the suits, all of that kind of stuff.
It's the same 72 cards, different imagery.
Yeah. 78.
Sorry, 78.
Yeah.
78.
78. Yes. Whereas oracle cards can be anything. So here's a deck that Elyse gave me because I was obsessed with it at her house, so I brought it home. Anyways, the Oracle can be any amount. This one is 68 cards. We created some at Avalon that are 66. There's 44. There, whatever. It can be anything. I even saw a deck that had 13 cards. Oracle is anything. And it's basically a collection of cards with different messages to help you through your day. And the specificity can link to the imagery, to the numerology, and to the message. It's much simpler to use and kind of a great way to get started in using cards in general.
And direct messages or themes, being like,
Yeah.
what's my theme for this cycle of my life? Or like, what's my message for today? And then you like put your energy into it, and then you pull. And I got the hawk. So this one is so this is the Wisdom of Avalon Oracle deck. And so this one has 52 cards in it. And so the hawk, so it has the imagery. This is omens and messages, and then it's number 11. So if 11 is something that lights up to you, or if you've been seeing a ton of symbols or symbolisms around you, messages from spirit, this is like confirmation. I'm sending you messages, right?
Mhm.
That's how I've labeled this one. So like if I pull this in, I'm like, okay, I'm going to look out for my messages. And then maybe I'll look at the clock at 11:11, and it's like, okay, this is my reaffirming. This is spirit giving me my messages. So that's like omens and messages. So it's a lot more direct, right? Whereas tarot kind of you can use for timelines. You can use for more like yes or no. I know a lot of people do past, present, future. It's like with all the different numbers and themes, it can be like things that you're getting over in your like near past, things that it might be holding you back, where you're going. Like you can really integrate a lot more into it. It can tell a timeline story with the deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Elyse, you were saying, when do you use cards? That was your question?
Yeah, back to that.
So for me, I will use them a lot like you, Lisa. Like in the morning before I start my day, I pull cards to just kind of see like what's the energy at today. And sometimes it's tarot, sometimes it's oracle. I will do that. Also, if I'm getting messages from spirit sometimes, and it's especially when it's about me, like if it's about somebody else, I'm so objective and it's easy to receive it with more clarity. With me, it can get fumbled into what I would like it to be, what I don't want it to be. So like, we can kind of warp our own. So sometimes I'll say to spirit, like, hey, I understand from what you've been telling me that it's this, this, and this, and that my feelings about it are I should focus on this, this, and this. Can you, through the cards, help me to see if I'm on track with that or not? And then this becomes that external piece that I can't manipulate or control, that can help give me insights if I'm on track or not. So that's how I tend to use them in my daily.
What about you, Lisa?
Mine's mostly like I will tune into where I'm guided to, what deck I'm guided to use. And usually it's about 2 or 3 of them that I use every morning. And it's like a combination. And then a lot of like, what do I need to know for today? And am I on the right track? Like, this is where I'm going. Like, what do I need to know about this? What do I need to know about my journey with this kind of thing? To be more specific with that. And then, yeah, that's about it. Like, and then I'll journal them if I feel the desire to do that. But a lot of time it's like an easy way to almost like materialize your conversation with your guides and spirit, because like you said, things will come through for me, but then it's a great way to just validate that.
Yeah. How about you, Elyse?
I don't use them, I would say, as daily. So mine is I don't pull them in the morning, because I was finding for a long time I was using them to guide my day versus being in flow of my day. And my brain would like latch onto them a little bit, especially during not as much when I felt really in flow and like things were good, but if I was, moving through something or, lots of change or really like not feeling as much ease and grace in my day to day, I would find that my brain would try to kind of make them I would try to bring them into my experience more than allow them to unfold. So for me, I was like, you know what, I don't actually think this is helping me that much.
Yeah.
So what I would start to do, especially in those periods, is pull them towards the end of the day. As that, what you were saying, Lisa, that like support and confirmation of what I had experienced and moved through on my own. So I use them like that. It's very like when I feel the call to pull for them, I pull for them. I don't, because I use my pendulum a lot as well, especially when I'm asking questions. I want directness. My brain likes to try to interpret in all sorts of different ways. And so for me, what I'll usually do is I'll either pull cards, use a pendulum, or use a pendulum, pull cards as a support of one another. Especially when I'm finding like I'm trying to ask really direct questions, maybe about big things happening or something that I have a lot of emotional or mental energetic investment in. It leaves less interpretation and wiggle room. So I kind of like pull for them as I feel. And then I do use them in readings sometimes, not all the time. I used to do it as a summary of the reading. And I really loved that because I found it wasn't directing it, but it was summarizing at the end. And there was always such beautiful like confirmations that I felt like for people to walk away with and say like, huh. And then again, that this is, if there was ever like, I'm curious about mediumship, or I have questions, or I'm not sure, or whatever, having that kind of be that like grounded piece at the end. Now I don't do that as much, but I like sometimes spirit will be like, get the cards. And then it's like, you need to, coffee delivery.
Coffee delivery.
That's nice.
I
Just
know, right?
manifested it. You spoke it about coffee and it just
I
showed
know.
up. But yeah, sometimes in reading, spirit will be like, get the cards, and then I'll pull them. So now it's kind of random, but I also find that when that happens, I had a reading with a beautiful soul a few weeks back, and like I pulled like freaking 20 cards. It was just this like layer and layer and layer, and it was crazy. So yeah, I use them really as like when I feel called to in whatever scenario, and I just kind of go with it. The other time I really like using them is in ceremony or practice around like the new year or my birthday or new moons or like or full moons, like some sort of kind of process that I'm working myself through. I'll usually do like my own kind of mental, emotional, somatic process, and then I'll use cards to either support that or clarify or kind of give me a roadmap going forward. So that's kind of how I use them.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
A little more airy fairy.
All right. Well, that's a nice deep dive into cards.
Should we end by pulling one?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
That would only seem necessary.
Obviously, or as the younger generation, which I learned yesterday, say obvi. Obvi. And what was the other one? That's dust. That's dust, Mom. I'm like, what does that mean? And
like
it means
D-U-S-T?
Yeah, like that means like not good. Like your basketball shot is dust or something. Anyway.
Really?
Yeah. I'm learning these new phrases. I'm like, anyways. Let's pull an obvi card.
What deck are you using, Ginette?
I have 3 happening right now.
It's a whole situation.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I pulled the same one for 2 different tarots. Okay.
That's fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is crazy.
What did you get?
Do you want to start us off, Lisa?
Well, I don't know.
After all that, nah.
Oh my God, that's
No,
amazing.
it's okay.
Yeah. So essentially, I'm not going to go through again, but I pulled first when we were still talking, and then I put them back. And then, so I pulled out of these tarot, which is my,
Yeah.
like, it's like, I love them. They're so fun. but I pulled those, and then I was like, oh no, I'll pull from the light seers because that's what we talked about, and then that imagery is more whatever. And I pulled the same cards.
Oh, cool.
So I pulled number 21 is the World card, which is the last one of the majors,
Completion.
and that's total completion.
Yeah. We're complete.
And yeah, like it's like, yeah, completion of the episode. That is
Yeah.
it. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. I love getting the World card because it's like the completion of the old stuff, that old, the old things, the old way of thinking, and allowing yourself to have full acceptance and completion of where you're from, but also knowing that there's so much to be open to that's coming forward. And it can mean travel, and it can be like opening to be able to explore something that is a whole new system. I just love it because I love the way she looks. It's like freedom. She's stepping forward. So I got the World, and then I got 2 of Wands, which is interesting because there's the globe right there too.
Yeah, totally.
And the 2 of Wands I have is like, wow, the way that we read, and look at the imagery too. It's like she's got the globe there. She's got a little like travel book here. And this is like setting the stage and getting things kind of balanced out and ready to explore. Really is like looking into that exploration, figuring out exactly where you want to go. So I love the completion card of the World, the completion of one, and then setting the stage. And I love this, setting the stage of where do you want to go? Where's your journey going? This is like preparation and allowing yourself, like dreaming about where you're going next. Okay. And then the Queen of Pentacles, which this is my jam. I love the Queen. Look at her like confidence and self-assurance, her connection to nature. And the Pentacles, of course, we talked about that kind of representing Pentacles is like that physical kind of wealth, or like money, or being like home or destination. And I just love that the Queen of Pentacles, she's holding on to that, and she's like, it doesn't define me, but I know it's there. Like, I'm good. And I love the Queen of Pentacles because she's so intuitive. She's so self-assured. Look at her. She's like, she's just put together. She's got her things. She's got it going on.
Yeah.
And she's so connected, and she's so confident. She's like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. I have everything I need. I'm like so abundant in all ways. You can, when you sit beside her, you can feel her energy. And so that's just such a great representation of like where we're going, kind of being in that energy.
Yeah.
So that is my pull.
How about you, Elyse?
Well, I'll start by, so I have the Light Seers deck too, and I love it. This one I bought to try and help me learn a little bit, because I find when I would have to like go into the book, I would kind of get out of my flow a little bit. So this one has helped me. So it's, what is it? Lucid Dreams Beginner Tarot. And I like it because I'll just pull a random one, but it has the little, it has like the descriptors up top. So you can just kind of get a feel for the vibe. So I pulled the Fool. And then I pulled the World.
You pulled the World too?
Yeah. And then, so again, we've been talking about the new beginnings, right? And then also the completion phase, which is interesting. And then what jumped out is the 10 of Cups, which is the love, the happy family, which I know, Ginette, you've been talking so much about this month. Spirit's really been talking about like divine union and partnership and connection, whether that's with, a romantic partner, a friend, a partnership, whatever that looks like.
I'm literally talking about that in Cosmic Consciousness next week. It's all about divine union.
Divine union.
Yeah.
10 of Cups can also have like the integration of like the Tree of Life, which is that like beautiful everything connected, right? The Tree of Life represents the oneness of everything, the connectedness of all, and that love and union.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I pulled the Fool, interestingly enough. New beginnings, like we talked about. And then I pulled the Sun card, which Sun card is like the happiest card in the deck that amplifies all the other cards. So I think that's just so cool. And then I did pull from that animal oracle, which was the bee spirit. And this just says sweet results await. So like that's such positive energy in our card pulls today. I think that's so fun. Yeah.
And I hope that this helps anybody who's like wanting to maybe explore with using, but it's like can be intimidating when you open up the deck and it's like, I don't know, like that kind of thing. get to know each card, name it, feel it, see how it connects to you. Almost like that's what I'll do, especially with Oracle. Like go through and like look at each card and feel each card and like connect your energy to it and look at it and like what does it elicit inside and like reading about it. So when you get to know your cards, then that is such a way in which like that it's like an interaction then.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Absolutely. And I will recommend that the Awakening Avalon Oracle deck is a great Oracle deck to start with. I know.
Where
many of
can you find that
I
deck,
know,
Ginette?
right? Many of you already have that deck. I know so many of you that watch what we do have purchased it. And so I have to thank you so much for that. But it is also like divinely guided as a tool. So that may be one that resonates, but there may be so many others as well. So I encourage you to explore all of them. Honestly, that's why we all have so many decks, because every deck
have a drawer
resonates in a
full.
different way. I know, me too.
Totally.
They're all in that room over there.
Put them
Yeah.
back in my drawer.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Amazing. Cool. Well, this was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah, so let us know if you have any other questions about tarot, oracle, if there's any kind of additional questions based on, I mean, there could be like a million, because like we've said, it's all so, it's so layered, there's so much to interpret, there's so much to learn and feel into how it resonates with you. So yeah, let us know if you have fun playing and ask the questions. Yeah, we're happy
like there's a card that keeps coming up, and you're like, okay, what's the significance? Why does it ask? Put it in the comments. We'll let you know. Like generally, if it continues to come up, we'll help guide you on this journey. So it's super fun. Yeah,
beautiful. Well, on that note, we hope you have a lovely week and we will see you all soon.